and use your mobile network. Sometimes that can help with connection issues, but it's up to you.
Okay, we're good to go on my end.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Allison McKenzie, and I am the chair of the Historic Conservation Board. I would like to take a minute to remind everyone about the rules of this proceeding. This proceeding is at all times governed by the rules of procedure adopted by the board on September 26, 2011, amended March 23, 2015, last amended March 9, 2020. A copy of the rules of procedure is available for review online. All those planning to testify today, which does not include those solely making arguments such as attorneys, should stand and take an oath administered by the board's attorney. This is a quasi-judicial hearing. As such, the board reserves the right to deliberate in private. The Ohio Rules of Evidence do not apply to this hearing. However, professional rules of conduct do apply, and candor to the tribunal is required. The board members are citizen volunteers and are not paid for their service. They are treated as public officials under Ohio law. Any attempt to influence them, including but not limited to bribery, intimidation, retaliation, which may include contacting their employer in an attempt to exert influence, is punishable as a crime. All should be aware that this meeting is being recorded. Therefore, please speak clearly into your microphone and state your name and address for the record. In the event of any technical difficulties with the video conferencing technology, I may continue or postpone this hearing at my discretion. All participants providing testimony must have both camera and audio features turned on in order to participate. With that said, let's proceed with the first item. The first item is on the consent agenda. Would anyone from the board like to move that to the discussion agenda?
Yes, Madam Chair, I would like to have that moved to the discussion docket. I understand the need, but if there's anything further from historic than a cell tower, I don't know what it is. So I would like that moved to the discussion docket, please.
Mr. Sturkey, I don't believe I need a vote on this. Is that correct? It's just one person required? Okay, great.
That's correct.
So
Yep.
we will proceed with item number 1 then as a discussion item.
Good afternoon. Let me share my screen. Okay. So item 1 is a conditional use and certificate of appropriateness for the expansion of an existing wireless communications tower. You can see the property is located on the east side of Main Street, between its intersection with East McMicken and Schiller Street in the Over the Rhine neighborhood and Over the Rhine Historic District. You can see this is the existing condition of the property. There is currently a 131-foot monopole communications tower on the site. It does include cabinets and equipment at the ground level. There's a black metal fence which has screening that encloses the base of the tower. The existing tower, you can see it has 3 arrays at the top of the pole. What is being proposed is to add an additional antenna array to the existing tower. You can see this is the plan showing that additional antenna array. There's also new equipment at the ground level that is going to be all within the existing enclosure. So no substantial change from the view at the base level because it does have that screened enclosure at the base. The platform with the new equipment is set back 12 feet from Main Street behind other existing equipment. When we look at the zoning review for communications towers, these are regulated at several different levels of the government, and there's an act that requires the local government to approve any eligible facilities request for the modification of an existing tower or base station that does not substantially change the physical dimensions of the tower or the base station. The zoning code regulations, the way we review this is that any new tower or any new mounts that are being placed on the tower trigger a conditional use hearing. We also take a conditional use hearing if there is an expansion of the base area where that equipment is located. So when we reviewed this for the conditional use standards, we did not find that the expansion will adversely affect the character of the district. The existing tower has been in place since 2000. It's legal non-conforming in its current form. The additional antenna array below the 3 existing arrays is not going to substantially add to the visual clutter that already exists from the existing tower. The co-location is going to eliminate the need for potentially another tower. And, you know, in order to maintain the desired level of service. When we look at the certificate of appropriateness review, again, the expansion takes place within the existing boundaries of the tower and the base structure. The new array is 97 feet above the grade. You know, it is our finding that it's not going to significantly add to the existing visual clutter of the tower, because there are already 3 existing arrays. And again, the ground equipment is within the existing screened enclosure. You know, I think certainly we can acknowledge the tower and its equipment are not in and of themselves compatible with the character of a historic district, but it is an existing legal non-conforming facility. And expanding the capacity of the existing tower through the proposed co-location, it will improve the functionality of service without requiring the construction of a new tower or another facility. There was a pre-hearing on August 2nd. The applicant was in attendance as well as one adjacent property owner. The adjacent property owner had no objection to the proposal. And we are recommending approval of the conditional use as well as the certificate of appropriateness. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
House. We do have an applicant available. Would you like to speak to add anything to what has been presented?
Hi, my name's Jennifer Chapman, and I'm here on behalf of Dish Wireless, who's applying to put the new mount on the tower, and then also Crown Castle, who's the owner of the tower. And I can answer any questions. I don't think I have anything to add to what was already stated. That's all. I mean,
great.
Yeah.
There are no other people signed up for this case. If there are any questions from the board for the applicant or staff, now would be the time.
Tim, Mr. Voss, you are muted.
I do not have any questions. I appreciate staff's taking the time. This is obviously a necessary accoutrement in the 21st century, and the degree to which it is so additionally impacting the area, I can be supportive of it, and I appreciate the time explaining exactly what was going on with it.
Great.
With that, I will move that we approve the certificate of appropriateness for item number 1.
And second.
Thank you. I will call the roll. Mr. Zalasko,
Aye.
Mr. Young,
Aye.
Mr. Sunderman,
Aye.
Ms. Smith,
aye.
Mr. Voss,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. We are on to item number 2. Thank you very much.
Item number 2 is 201 to 205 East Clifton Avenue. This is both a certificate of appropriateness, and for the construction of a new parking lot. The 4 items of zoning relief you can see on the screen: conditional use for the parking lot in an RM 0.7 district, special exception to eliminate the parking lot screening that's required, special exception to eliminate the 3-foot perimeter landscaping buffer that's required, also eliminate the required tree planting for parking lots, a variance to eliminate the required striping and directional arrows for the parking lot markings. You can see this is the location of the property. It is the northwest corner of Lang Street and Husk Alley to the rear of the properties at 201 to 205 East Clifton in the Over the Rhine neighborhood and historic district. You can see the eastern portion of the property where the parking lot is proposed is a separate vacant lot. And here you can see this is the existing condition where the parking lot is proposed. The applicant is proposing a surface parking lot on this vacant grassy portion of the property. The lot would be composed of a crushed limestone surfacing. Here you can see the site plan. It has 10 switchgrass plantings on one end. That's really the extent of the landscaping that's proposed. When we look at the zoning review for the relief that's required, we can acknowledge a surface parking lot that services the adjacent residential uses, is appropriate and supportive to the historic properties, but the proposed design of the lot is not in itself in the interest of historic conservation due to the minimal nature of the landscaping and screening that's being provided. Generally, we want parking lots in historic districts to provide substantial screening and landscaping so that the vehicles are screened from view. The planting of just the 10 Cloud9 switchgrass plants, is not sufficient. The code also requires a screen fence or evergreen plantings to ensure that there's year-round screening. No plantings are proposed on the north or east boundaries, so there would be clear views into the parking lot. And there, as it's proposed, there really is ample space on the lot to meet the full screening requirement. And we have not received any sort of justification as to why this reduction should be granted. A denial of the requested relief will not result in the deprivation of all economically viable uses. There is the existing residential building that is under the same ownership at 201 to 205 East Clifton Avenue. When we look at the certificate of appropriateness, a lot of the similar analysis, as I just went through this, as the zoning relief applies, our finding is that the proposal does not meet the design guidelines for parking lots. There is insufficient screening proposed for the lot. There's no fencing or masonry wall provided. The insufficient screening will result in clear views to the parking lot. And there is ample space on the lot to meet the zoning code and provide parking. When we look at the surfacing that they're proposing, the proposed gravel surfacing does not meet the design guidelines for paving. The gravel surfacing will be a crushed limestone, which is not appropriate for this large of an area in a historic district with a 1,519 square foot lot. In past parking lots, we have, asked for some type of pavers or scored concrete, at least at the access drive, to really maintain that, more appropriate historic surfacing material. And also with the use of gravel as the surfacing, there is the potential for it to migrate into the alley. And it does prohibit the installation of parking lot markings, including striping, to designate where the spaces are. There's a pre-hearing on August 2nd that no one attended. We did not, at the time the report was posted, we did not have any letters of support or opposition. And ultimately, we are recommending denial of both the zoning relief that's requested and the certificate of appropriateness for the project.
House, we do have an applicant and an owner signed up. If either of you would like to add anything, we need to get you sworn in by the board council.
Okay. Let's see, Mr. Is it Boots? If you could take yourself off of mute, please. And if Mr. Matt Jacob would like to say anything. If you could also take yourself off mute. Both raise your right hand. I need you to answer out loud. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yes. Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Who would like to speak first?
I would. This is actually not a parking lot. It's parking pads on two different pieces of property. But more importantly, this is an intermediate solution to the impending parking tsunami that's overtaken this part of Over the Rhine. Matt is the owner of both of these pieces of property and the one that faces East Clifton above 205, which is peculiarly named. But he has every intention of developing these pieces of property. And with the parking congestion that's overtaken this part of the neighborhood, and in the complete absence of any parking plan to moderate that, we'd rather not. It would, any paving that would be required here would double or triple the cost of getting 4 vehicles off of the street, and would be lost at whatever point the Matt's development is undertaken. So it would be a complete waste for whatever period to install pavers to meet the specifications of the district. We're trying to, the idea of the grass plantings was to provide plants that could be transplanted into the landscaping of the rest of the alley, which we both participate in. This is the cleanest alley in Cincinnati, by the way. We both participate in keeping this alley clean. And let's see, the idea of gravel migration is 304 crushed limestone is a standard pavement base, and the intention with using this gravel is that whatever apron eventually would be part of the eventual development on these properties would be sufficient, would be able to remain in place with just the top layer removed for whatever permanent paving would take place there. Same thing with the fence. Any structured fence that we would have to install would be a waste at whatever point the property is developed. So our main hope was that you could entertain some exceptions due to the intermediate nature of what we're proposing. There is no issue on the east side in terms of screening, because we're right up against our neighbor's fence, and they are in support. And we've the procedures for submitting documents of support were unclear to me. So the Community Council board met a week ago and gave unanimous support to this proposal, and is prepared to submit it to the membership. But as you may or may not know, parking has become quite the hot potato issue, especially north of Liberty. City's just making its initial moves to adjudicate parking, but this is a perfect use. And the other thing to emphasize is Lang is a very busy side street with tight parking on both sides of the street, to the point where I've lost 2 truck mirrors to side swipes on that street, and we're anxious to take 4 vehicles off of that street and the adjacent streets when it's necessary. There are also at least 12 to 15 units with no apparent parking provisions under construction in the immediate vicinity. So this situation is only going to get worse, and we'd like to be able to, the gravel would be easy to maintain and get us out of the mix, the thrust and parry, if you will, of street parking in this corner of the neighborhood. Thank you.
Mr. Jacob, is there anything you would like to add?
Yeah, I'll just add to what Mike said. I did a little bit of homework before this hearing. It didn't get communicated to me the pre-hearing, so I apologize for not showing up for that. So in the area of this part of Over the Rhine, there's at least 30 units that have been added with no parking, to the point where parking on sidewalks is a regular occurrence on East Clifton Avenue. And like Mike said, a lot of side swiping of vehicles happens on Lang Street directly adjacent to this lot. I'm in the process of renovating the building at 201 East Clifton Avenue. And I've been asked by neighbors like Mike to provide a place for off-street parking. So it's really not really my intention to build a lot. It's more being asked for by neighbors. So I kind of obliged. That's why I kind of gave Mike the task to kind of take it and run with it while I've been busy with the construction. Just with a quick survey of the neighborhood this morning, there are no less than 7 other gravel lots north of Liberty and east of Vine Street. So it historically is something that's pretty common in this part of the neighborhood. Some of them are much larger around Moorline. Others are small parking pads in the rear of buildings like we're proposing. As far as plantings, like Mike said, our intention is to continue the grass plantings that are already along Hust Alley, down by the school, down by Rothenberg's playground, and to continue that down the alley and up Lang Street. We only really see the need to screen from Lang Street as Hust Alley. There's literally a brick wall on the other side of the alley from this. So there's not really anyone looking in, I guess. So that's what was our rationale for just having it on Lang Street. If we need to extend it further, we're open to doing that. We just don't really see the need. But historically, there are other surface lots in over the Rhine that have just used tall grass screenings. 3CDC's lot on 1566 Elm Street only uses tall grasses along the Pleasant Street side of that parking lot. So we think there's precedent for that being enough for screening. And like you said, we're continuing what's going on next to Rothenberg. As far as trees, we've actually tried to plant trees around the school. Around this site gets a lot of walking traffic for kids going to school, and the combination of the kids and the dogs are relentless on trees. So another example of a tree being used for a surface gravel parking lot is at 71 East Clifton, the intersection with Frintz Avenue, and their tree is already dead. So we just think, given the future intention to build new housing on this lot, that it would just be a waste of money to add a tree. If that's, we can do it. It's just, we don't think it'll really survive where it's at. So I think that's all I have to add.
Does the board have any questions for the applicant or staff?
No.
I guess my question, you keep indicating that this would be a temporary condition. Do you have any idea of when this lot could be developed into a different use?
It comes down to when I get done with construction of the existing building on the corner, and then the planned renovation of the apartment building that's directly adjacent in front of this parking lot. So this lot will probably be, and the surface lot will probably get used for construction workers and that kind of thing during that renovation. And then this would be a third phase. So it really comes down to how long that would take. My guess is within the next 5 years. I hope it was sooner, but I can't really, guarantee anything, I guess.
No one else signed up and present. Any further questions from the board? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I agree with Mr. Owens' appraisal, and I move that we deny the zoning and the COA application at this point.
Second.
Okay, I will call the roll. Mr. Zelasco,
Aye.
Mr. Young,
Aye.
Mr. Sunderman,
Aye.
Ms. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Voss,
No.
the chair also votes no. But the motion to deny the certificate of appropriateness and relief does pass. So if you would like to, revise the plan and come back through, I think that's an option. But as of this point, it is denied. Mr. Sturkey, would you like to give further guidance?
No, just add that if you do want to appeal the board's decision today, you'll have 30 days after the written decision is issued to appeal that to the zoning board of appeals if you wanted to continue with the same design and application. Otherwise, if you did change it, you could come back through this process.
Okay, thank you.
If it helps in the future and you do come back, I for one will not vote for a gravel lot downtown. So just to note that. And the other thing is I would strongly recommend meeting with in the pre-construction meeting so that they have a better sense. If this is a temporary situation, that they'll help you resolve that, to communicate the message better.
Okay, I appreciate it. Are there any other, I guess, tweaks that other board members would like to see?
I would just say come as close to meeting zoning as you possibly can,
Right.
and you'll have a better chance of success.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, item number 3.
So to the chair, I got an email a minute ago from Ms. Ahouse, who is filling in for Doug today. She's having some technical difficulties. She's attempting to log on to a separate computer. She requested a brief recess while she attempts to get onto a machine that's working a little bit smoother.
Great. Would 10 minutes be sufficient, do you think? Do we need to do longer than that?
My guess is that's more than enough.
Great. So let's plan to reconvene at 3:45. Do we need a motion on that, Mr. Sturkey?
Yeah, I think so.
Could I get a motion to take a 10-minute recess?
I make a motion to take a 10-minute recess.
Second.
Okay, I'll call the roll quickly. Mr. Young,
Aye.
Mr. Sunderman,
Aye.
Ms. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Voss,
Aye.
Velasco.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. We will reconvene at 3:45.
Emily, would you like to do a test here?
Yeah, it's everything working, audio, video.
Yep, we can see you and hear you just fine.
Okay.
Are you able to share? Do you have all that stuff ready to go?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, it looks like everything should work.
Okay, fantastic.
Are we ready to go, or are we still waiting?
I think we need to call the meeting back to order. We have
Yeah.
another minute before we were supposed to return, so I'll just wait for the chair to get us going.
Okay, it looks like we are at 3:45. So we can call.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is 1608 Elm Street. What's before you today is both a certificate of appropriateness and zoning relief. The zoning relief that's requested is a dimensional variance of 25 feet for a 0 rear yard setback, short of the required 25 feet, a dimensional variance of 80 feet for a proposed 80-foot front setback in excess of the required 0 setback, and a special exception to eliminate the required type A buffer yard. For the existing conditions, the property is on the east side of Elm Street between West Liberty Street and Green Street in the Over the Rhine neighborhood and Over the Rhine Historic District. The existing building on the site dates to 1870, and it consists of a 4-story building on the Elm Street frontage. Historically, there was a ground floor commercial space with residential above, but it was later converted to all residential. The rear structure on the lot is a 2-story legal non-conforming second principal structure. This currently has 1 additional residential unit. And what the applicant is proposing is to renovate both buildings on the lot. It will return the ground floor space to commercial use in the front building, renovate the residential units above for a total of 5 residential units. The rear building is going to remain as a single unit with a proposed 2-story addition. That includes living space and a roof deck. The overall density on the site across the 2 buildings is being reduced from 7 to 6 units. And really what's before you today is just the renovations for the rear building. So when we look at the zoning analysis here, this is the site plan as it exists with the rear building and the front building on Elm Street. Here are the existing elevations of that rear building. And here are the proposed elevations. So what's being proposed is a 2-story addition that will be clad in a fiber cement siding. In terms of why the zoning relief is needed, the existing rear building is legal non-conforming as a second principal structure on the site. As it's expanded upwards, any new addition is required to comply with the current zoning regulations, which are the existing setbacks. As we are looking at this as a principal structure, this is sort of a unique configuration with a front building and a rear building that the uses are spread out between. And so the zoning code requires the building to be built to the front property line and with a 25-foot rear yard setback that the existing building does not comply with. There's also, because there's another zoning district that the property abuts, a buffer yard type A, which is 10 feet of buffer space and a 6-foot screen fence is required. The existing property does not provide that, nor will it be provided with the proposed alterations. So, when we look at the standards for variances, the front and rear setbacks are compatible with the historic districts. Insofar as that this is the existing condition of the historic building. Extending the building upward 2 stories within the buffer yard is not likely in this location to present significant adverse effects based on there being another accessory structure that abuts it on the lot that is nearest to the proposed addition. And overall, our analysis is that the relief that is being requested doesn't present substantial adverse effects to the surrounding properties, but we do have concern about the proposed design as it overpowers the existing 2-story building. We do not find the zoning relief to be in the interest of historic preservation because we are finding that the design is not consistent with the design guidelines. And we do not find that the denial of the zoning relief would result in the deprivation of all economically viable uses of the property, as it would still, at least no evidence has been provided that it would not be viable to continue to operate the 2-story building as one unit. When we look at the certificate of appropriateness analysis in terms of the design guidelines, the addition is 2 stories over the main structure. It's intended to expand the living space and add a rooftop deck. The existing building is 20 feet in height, and the addition is expanding it to 41.5 feet in height, so really doubling the height of the building. The addition is going to cover the entire footprint of the building to the front, side, and rear existing planes, just taking those straight up, so there's no real differentiation in that plane as the addition goes up. Our finding is that it's a substantial change that is really overpowering the original historic structure on the rear of the property. We acknowledge that the highest visibility of this alteration comes from vacant lot, which is likely to be redeveloped at some point in the future, minimizing the visibility. But we still find that with limited visibility, the addition is really just inappropriate and not consistent with the design guidelines and the historic character of the property. There was a pre-hearing on August 2nd. No one attended. And we did receive 1 letter of opposition from the public for the proposal. So we are recommending denial of the requested zoning relief. And we are also recommending denial of the certificate of appropriateness as we have not received evidence that the proposal substantially conforms to the applicable historic conservation guidelines.
Thank you, Ms. Ahaus. We do have an applicant and an owner signed up. If either of you would like to speak, let's get you sworn in, please.
Mr. Dellinger, if you could raise your right hand, do you solemnly swear that the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
And I will also be speaking, and I also swear to tell the truth.
Okay.
Are you part of the ownership team or are you a member of the public?
Public,
Okay, we'll get to you in the next little section.
sorry.
Nope, no worries. I think we do have the owner present though, Mr. Ramanini.
Yes, I'm here.
It's okay. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Mr. Dellinger or Mr. Ramanini, whoever would like to speak first, please proceed.
Well, let me just start off to say that I'm disappointed with the recommendation of the zoning officer. Primarily, we were trying to increase the value of the property. The existing building is a very small, second floor has 2 very small bedrooms that really aren't taking the best advantage of the market that's available now in Over the Rhine. And we felt it was a good opportunity to expand the building vertically with a similar pattern of material of the horizontal coursing of the siding similar to the brick, and the 4th floor rooftop terrace and small living room addition or family room addition, I think would be a very desirable feature that would be highly marketable. And I think it's certainly not denying that would not diminish the total value of the property, but it certainly wouldn't take advantage of the potential of the property. I don't have anything further to add to that.
Mr. Ramanini, would you like to add anything?
Nothing major. What we're trying to do is renovate a house that's not suitable at the current circumstances. We're going up. We're not even doing 2 floors. We're doing a deck on the top floor with a half a room and another bedroom on the 3rd floor. The total square footage that we're increasing is probably less than 600 square feet. So we hope and pray that you guys would approve this. This would complement the neighborhood, the building, and we're renovating the 6 units in the front. And this is just a small carriage house that has no value as it sits unless we add something to it. So that's all we're trying to do.
Thank you. Before I move to members of the public, do any members of the board have questions for the applicants or staff? Not hearing any, so I will proceed to the members of the public who have signed up. Terry Peters, John Bryan, and Danny Klingler. Whoever would like to add, let's go ahead and get you sworn in now.
Yeah, and Mr. Klingler, if you're going to add some testimony, if you get on mute, great. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Great, we'll go with Mr. Bryan first, since he's, or Mr. Byer first, I'm sorry. I have a conflict between my list and your name, so I apologize. Whatever your last name is, if you could please add what you would like.
It's John Bryan, and we own the property that abuts the proposed project on the east. We are at 1611 Pleasant Street. The building that abuts the building that's proposed for expansion is a garage and studio apartment that we own that is an outbuilding on our property. So they're kind of mirror images of each other. Ours, however, is only 2 stories high, and I have to disagree with the sponsors of the project that the existing building space could not be profitably developed without going higher. In fact, we have a studio apartment that we rent above our garage in this outbuilding. But aside from that development question, there is in the proposal some unfortunate elements that I'd like to mention. One is, of course, that the style, as the analysis showed, is not consistent with the neighborhood. It, in fact, is from the perspective of our property, it would be a bit of an eyesore. If you take a look at the elevations, you'll see that the only fenestration is on the west side and on the top level of the south side. What we would be looking at would be 2 stories of blank wall. Second, we look at the high likelihood that the single tree in the neighborhood would have to be taken out in order to accommodate this increase in the height of the building. We're, of course, a little bit concerned that a building that is abutting our garage and apartment, the construction might in fact be somewhat detrimental to the structural integrity of our building. And we certainly agree that going up to 4 stories there would overwhelm the immediate surrounding neighborhood with its height. I think that's all that I have to say.
Thank you. Mr. Klingler?
Hi, my name is Danny Klingler. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I'm representing OTR Adopt, which owns property at 1612 Elm and 1725 Elm. I strongly agree with the Urban Conservator's recommendation, and I think their analysis is excellent and want to thank them for considering whether it's necessary and appropriate in the interests of historic preservation, the proposed. I've always appreciated that Mr. Bryan's property, I don't know whether they developed it or the prior developer developed it, attempted to mirror and respect the size and shape of this particular outbuilding. And I think that that should be respected in the original building. The only thing I would love to see if the staff could do in the future is when there is a partial demolition being recommended, if they could do an analysis of the demolition section, which says that no demolition in whole or any part of a building shall take place without A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. And there is brick being removed, including the sawtooth of the original structure. So if in the future they could do that, that would be great. But other than that, I think I completely agree and am grateful to the staff for their recommendation and hope that you guys will deny this, because these are the types of things that hurt over the Rhine in the long term. And we can't have a beautiful historic district if too many of these things happen. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions or comments on this item?
No.
If there are none, I will entertain a motion.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to enter a motion to deny the zoning relief and the certificate of appropriateness is laid.
Second.
Mr. Sunderman, could we just have clarification? I think you muted there a little early. Was the last part of your motion as recommended by staff?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Smith seconded. Is your second still valid?
Yes.
Great. I will call the roll. Mr. Sunderman,
Aye.
Ms. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Young,
Aye.
Mr. Voss.
Aye.
Did we lose? Oh, did I call you Mr. Zalesko? I'm sorry, I'm losing track of it. You guys keep moving on my screen.
You're mad at me, aren't you? That's
You've moved like 3 times and I'm like, what's going on? So
I approve of the motion. Aye.
and the chair votes aye. So the item has been denied. If you would like to move forward with the project, please consult with staff. Any additional guidance, Mr. Sturkey, for this one?
No, Mr. Dillinger, if you were listening to the last one, it's about the same. You can change the actual project design and come back before the board for the redevelopment, or you can appeal the board's decision today by going to the ZBA, and you'll have 30 days from the date of the written decision. If you have additional questions, we'll be happy to discuss that with you offline.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
I think we are ready for item number 4.
Okay, item number 4 is 716 Mount Hope Avenue. This project was continued by the Historic Conservation Board at the August 7th hearing, and the proposal includes both a certificate of appropriateness and zoning relief. You can see there were some changes from the initial application that was submitted, and so the zoning relief that's being requested has been reduced. The revised submittal eliminates the 6-foot wood screen fence along Bushnell Street that was initially proposed, and it replaces it with a 4-foot black metal fence, which is compliant with the zoning code and the design guidelines. The revised application also specified the siding material that's proposed for the new accessory structure. It added some additional landscaping to the south property line, specified concrete as the material for the driveway. And generally just added a little bit more landscape screening throughout. Overall, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail since Mr. Owen presented this at the last hearing, but the proposal is a new accessory garage structure on the northern panhandle of the property. It includes a new driveway. And you can see here is the proposed 4-foot aluminum fence, the driveway, the accessory structure. I do want to note, since it came up in the last hearing, staff did do some additional review into the retaining wall, which was discussed. And this was previously a building permit was applied for, and it was approved at a staff level in 2021. So that is not a part of this hearing, and it has been determined to meet the design guidelines and the zoning code through that previous staff level review. Again, you can see here the additional landscaping that is proposed to sort of screen the view more around the accessory structure. And here are the proposed elevations. These are the side elevations. You can see the standing seam metal roof, as well as the composite siding, which will have a smooth white finish. Here are the front and rear elevations. And included in your packets were also the specifications for that siding material. Overall, as we evaluated the variances that are being requested, our finding from the zoning review was that the accessory structure is not going to adversely affect the historic character of the landmark property. The placement where it's proposed that requires the zoning relief at that northern panhandle is really the most appropriate location for an accessory structure on this lot. It's not going to impact any significant views of the property. It is set back 48 feet from the street, which places it behind the adjacent residential building that fronts that street. So it's sort of appropriate to the streetscape. It does have a large footprint at 1,830 square feet, but there was a historic outbuilding on the property that was 1,300 square feet. So it is not really out of the character of historic accessory structures that we saw on this property. In the previous accessory structure was located just south of the proposed location of this accessory structure. So overall, we find that the zoning relief that's requested is consistent with the standards for variances. And so we are recommending approval of the zoning relief. For the locational variance to locate the accessory residential structure in the corner side yard, we're recommending a condition that during construction, a wall check be provided by a licensed surveyor at the time of the footing placement. And that was just, to make sure that the placement is, as proposed and get that more detailed double check during construction. For the dimensional variance of the size of the accessory residential structure, we're recommending a condition which, is really the standard practice through the permit process, but just to reinforce that a stormwater management review be included as part of the building permit review to ensure stormwater calculations are adequate to capture runoff from the accessory structure, and that it won't create adverse impacts on the downstream properties. This is just in response to some of the concerns we heard from neighboring property owners. Again, generally a standard practice through the building permit review, just reiterating that in our approval. And then when we look at the certificate of appropriateness review, overall our finding is that it's consistent with the design guidelines. It's going to be clad in a horizontal composite siding, similar to the recent addition to the residence. It's going to have a standing seam metal roof. The driveway is surfaced in concrete, which is an appropriate surfacing for this portion of the driveway. The size is substantial, but as I just mentioned, it is similar in scale to the previous historic accessory structure, which was demolished in 2009. Again, the placement helps to reduce any adverse effects from the view towards and from the principal structure. The fencing and the landscaping will help to screen the building, the new accessory structure from Bushnell Street. And that is one of the enhancements that the applicant made recently, adding additional landscaping really to further screen the building from the south. In the views to the south, the proposed fence, which was a change, is consistent with the design guidelines and the zoning code requirements. So we are recommending approval of the certificate of appropriateness with two conditions: that the composite material on the garage will have a smooth finish and not a faux wood grain finish, and that the building permits must be issued within 2 years of the decision dates or the COA will expire. And so I'm happy to answer any questions.
We do have two applicants, Ms. Lennon and Mr. Cobley. I'm sorry, Graham, I always.
That's all right. Everybody gets it wrong.
And then the Rams as the owner here as well. So if any of you would like to add anything, let's get you sworn in so that you can speak.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah, could I have the Rams, and who's going to testify in that room, raise their right hand? And both the applicants as well, the applicant reps from the Republic. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Mr. Ram?
Yes,
Thank you.
I do.
Whoever would like to start first, please do.
I'll go. I'll try to be brief. Madam Chair, thanks for allowing me to present today, and thank you to the board for allowing me to present. I was wondering, am I allowed to share my screen and share the staff report so I can drive to make things easier? Is that allowable?
I believe that's acceptable. I'm not sure if we need to make you a co-presenter or anything to technically make that happen, but I'm amenable to get it to work.
Let me push a button here and see if this works.
Okay.
Let me know if you can see that, maybe.
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Okay, so you should be seeing a picture of the house. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I just wanted to take a minute to remind everybody that when we were back before the board a number of years ago for this original project, I think we received a unanimous vote of approval, as well as accolades from several members of the board, and some of which are on the board right now, about the rigor at which we approached the project. And I guess we have people now stopping and admiring the house from the street, from Mount Hope, with the green grass and landscaping and the fountain and the pond and just what we've done. So we're really proud of it. And I think the board would agree that the approach, and to sum it all up in one word, is robust. And we've approached everything with a robust nature on this project. That's the way we do it at our firm. As Ms. Ayhouse kind of covered, we've dropped the fence from a 6-foot privacy to a 4-foot fence with greater opacity. We've withdrawn the opacity and height variance requests. We've changed the exterior materials. The block retaining wall was initially permitted or appropriately permitted. And we've demonstrated that our stormwater calculations for the new building that we're proposing is taken into accommodation by our civil engineer. We've provided a landscaping plan, and we've added ample landscaping even between the previous meeting and this meeting, which I can share with you eventually if you'd like. And we've spent time ensuring that the neighbors adjoining the property to the north side of the proposed accessory structure are in tune with our proposal, and we have full support from their support letters that I think are in your packet. In short, we've relented on the concerns voiced by others and been proactive in communications with other residents directly affected by building this accessory structure. I wanted to take a minute to just kind of explain why we chose to put the new building where we did. So if you can see the site plan here, initially, very early on, we had plans for a 6-car garage that would form an L shape and come down here along the north side of the property. The topography is challenging. This was where we initially looked to prepare a garage, but the topography drops off substantially from the house. So by doing that, we wanted, if we had done that, we would have had to raise the drive substantially, creating massive grading along the entire site, including the driveway. So we decided not to make the carriage house addition a larger addition than it is. We reduced it to a three-car garage. The carriage house The addition is slab on grade because we didn't want to excavate for a basement for a storage or a wood shop because we were in the hillside district. We wanted to minimize the amount of excavation that we did. And our owners, this is their forever home. So we wanted to minimize accessibility challenges and minimizing the number of steps from garage to inside of the house. So the idea that everything is as on one level as we could get it was critical. So raising the grade was tough. Additionally, we encountered several beehive cisterns in the footprint, in the general area here in the hillside. So just the idea of not disturbing more of the soil in the hillside was a good thing. So I think in conclusion, we encountered a hardship from topography and subsurface conditions. That's why our decision to locate the accessory structure where we did was guided in that direction. We've added additional landscaping, and again, I can show that to you. But what we've also done is we've tried to kind of fill the hole. A smaller structure on that site wouldn't really fill the hole. This is a pretty unsightly retaining wall. So we're trying to kind of fill the void that's left over on the panhandle condition of the lot that you can kind of see there. And kind of screen the unsightly retaining wall as best we can with the building and landscaping. We're about 180 feet from the property to the south, so not in a great, not in full view of that property. And then in terms of size, we didn't want to add the building or add to the original carriage house design because we thought it would overpower the existing historic house. So we were trying to be respectful of the house with the addition, didn't want to do an L-shaped garage. That led us to put it over here. So we think that a little bit larger carriage house or a little bit larger accessory structure is appropriate for a lot that's about 1.5 acres in size. We did review the idea of doing 2 separate 800 square foot structures, but that just kind of clutters up the site, adds additional curb cuts, and we didn't feel that that was really appropriate, an appropriate solution. We're trying to fill this, the carriage house with the accessory structure. It's really appropriately sized. A 4-bedroom house needs some additional storage. And since we don't have a basement in the addition, this is where we want to do some storage. We also thought that having a place to place multiple cars undercover enclosed would be better than having multiple cars out in full view of the street. So we're going to put landscaping equipment in there. It's designed to take basement storage. It's designed for a couple of project cars, a wood shop, and just additional storage space for the home. And I think in your packet, you've seen letters from Cincinnati Preservation Association, as well as support letters from the neighbors. We have precedent for larger variances being granted for larger carriage houses on estate home lots. They just don't get seen very often because they're usually on larger lots and hidden from view because of mature landscaping. So I would encourage you to look around Northside, North Avondale, Hyde Park, East Walnut Hills. They're all over. There's another structure built on Wilsonia Avenue within a half a mile of here that's in your packet that's fully visible and a metal roof or metal building. It's a pole barn. So we're just asking for similar consideration. So if you want, I can share the screening, the additional photos of the up-to-date landscape screening. But realistically, we think we've located the building in the right place. It's the right size to do the job without disturbing the public or being out of view or being in view of anyone's daily routine. So I think that's where we'd like to leave it, and we'll take questions, I guess.
Thank you. Would anyone else from your applicant team like to speak?
I'd like to add a couple of items to consider. So in regards to location and size, both Graham touched upon this. It fills the hole basically. So we're replacing the building. It sets back from the edge of the apartment wall. So it's set back. It's not right in front. So from Mount Hope, it minimizes the view. And then also we sized it so it didn't encroach onto Pat, who lives right next door to us, doesn't encroach onto her house. So it's actually not past the back of her house. And then what it does, it covers the whole wall. So the poor neighbors that are on Mount Hope, whose backyards would see the building, would actually see a what we consider a nice building with landscaping versus the wall that we have. And we've talked to all the neighbors on the north side of the property and shown the plans to them, and they're comfortable and they like the idea of not being able to see the unsightly wall and the fencing that's there. So we're making sure that we're making the neighborhood better for all of us, not just for us. So the screening up by Bushnell will actually clean up that area quite a bit. It used to be an overgrown lot with a lot of weeds and whatnot. We did put up a 6-foot fence, was primarily for security initially when we were building. We did have some theft, and that seemed to have cut it down because that was a hidden access to the lot. So that's going to get changed, like Graham mentioned, to a 4-foot aluminum fence that'll look attractive, I believe, with landscaping behind it. And so I think the view for all our north neighbors, I think, is going to be much better by putting this building in also. Thank you.
Are there any questions or comments for the applicants or staff before I move into public comments?
From the board, Madam Chair?
Yes, from the board.
Yeah, actually, I do have a question. It's more of a curiosity. I don't know that it's impactful for my decision, but it's hard to tell from the site plan, but it looks like the retaining wall is on the adjacent property. You don't own the retaining wall, so that's their fence, the 6-foot.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Actually, Lindsay, that is our retaining wall.
3 times on one.
What are we talking about?
The big unsightly retaining wall with the 6-foot fence is the apartment fence and retaining wall, not the Rams.
Correct.
The stone smaller one is on the Rams property.
Yes, I agree.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board at this moment before I move on to public comments? Okay, we do have several people signed up as members of the public. Mr. Sturkey, do you want to handle them all at once? Do you want to go one at a time? What is your preference?
Yeah, if I could get them all at once, that'd be great. Do you want me to just go run through the names and have everyone unmute?
Perfect.
Okay. As you hear your name called, if you could please unmute your microphones. Keith Rader, Mary and Tom Croft, Jake Barnett, Meredith Barnett, Bill Burwinkle, Beth Johnson, Kate Stark, Joe Carr, Valdemore, and Kim Carr. Please make sure you're all off mute if you would like to provide any testimony here today. I need everyone I just called to raise their right hand. I need everyone to answer out loud. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I'm going to go in the order of the list that I've been provided by staff. So we will start with Keith Rader, as he is the first one on my list. If you'd like to add something, please try to keep it to the 2 minutes we allot for public comments.
I will be more concise in 2 minutes. Along with our neighbors to the north and south, I think we stand to be the most directly impacted of any of the residents in the neighborhood. The carriage house will be placed about 50 feet beyond our backyard fence and in our direct line of sight. I'm completely in favor of it. I've seen the sketches and plans and for the landscaping as well, and I think it'll be a wonderful addition to the neighborhood. And I am thrilled that we won't be able to see that huge poured concrete retaining wall as well.
Thank you very much. Next on my list is Mary Croft. I think we're working on unmuting here.
One there.
There we go.
Hi, I'm Mary Croft, and I own 4 acres of land to the south of the Moore Night House. And that's why I got a notice from the city's legal department. And I am in favor of the carriage house being placed where the architect has placed it. I was born and raised in East Price Hill Incline District. In 1995, Mamie Knight was kind enough to give me a tour of the house and the carriage house. The carriage house definitely was at least 1,300 square feet. She gave me a tour of the apartment building of the old carriage house. The carriage house, frankly, was a little odd. It did not tie into the Moore Night House architecturally. There were no Italianate elements on that carriage house. It was made of what actually looked like, under the gray asphalt siding, was a barn siding. And the Moore Night House is brick. So I feel the new carriage house definitely ties more into even the historic house, in the sense the historic house was a painted white brick. The carriage house originally was probably a red barn siding with a gray asphalt siding on it. So I am a historian myself. I had a career, 25 years on the East Coast, where I was involved with restoring many historical houses and older houses. And this is a marvelous addition. This is 1.4 acres of land, which is quite a big lot, especially in Price Hill. And the view from the south side that my property would see is the same as the 710 property. And I would not find that view of the front 29-foot wide carriage house unattractive at all. It is a view that many people see in homes today. Unfortunately, you do see in some neighborhoods of 500,000 above, where the carriage house or garage doors face the street. This is on the side, and I do not find that a negative. I know what this properly looked like. I know this house was empty for 10 years. I live 5 minutes away, a walk from this house. It broke my heart to see it deteriorating. It broke my heart to see the property just dissolving. The landscaping there was nothing. And the landscaping that the Rams has done is fantastic. It's like a park. It's beautiful.
If you could please wrap it up, we'd appreciate it. We appreciate
Okay.
it.
Thank you. So I'm asking and hoping that you approve this, because this is an incredible improvement for all of Price Hill.
Thank you. Would Tom Croft like to add anything today?
Yes.
Sure. I have to put on my readers. So my name is Tom Croft. I live at 562 Davenport Avenue, adjacent to our property at 578 Mount Hope Avenue. I do support approval of the variances according to the recommendation of the Urban Conservator. My comments have to do with the scale of the additional structure and also its appearance. As previously stated, the scale of the proposed carriage house is in line with the historic carriage house. It is what one expects of a large residence on 1.5 acres of land. Regarding the structures, it would not to attempt hiding it. This is by
Everyone else having trouble with the connection?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Croft, if you can still hear us, we see you as frozen. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next person. But if I see that you hop back on, oh, it looks like you might be back with us.
Okay,
Get closer, talk about it.
sorry. I won't go back, but regarding the structure's appearance, it wouldn't be typical to try to hide the carriage house. I mean, that's evidenced by many historic homes that I've visited and by many large garages and carriage houses around Cincinnati. The neighbors along Mount Hope of the proposed carriage house are also in support without reservation of this project. As to the view from Mount Hope, it will appear attractively impressive as part of the grand estate. It enhances the status of our neighborhood as one with a diverse variety of attractive homes. The appearance of the carriage house will be further enhanced by the ongoing landscaping. I won't go further on that because I think it's been more than sufficiently described. I think all of this supports your approval of the requested variances as recommended by the Urban Conservator, and I thank you for your consideration.
Croft. Next on my list is Jake Barnett. Mr. Barnett.
Hi there. Thanks for allowing me to speak. So I live at 730 Mount Hope, which is just to the west of the house. We would also be directly impacted by the building of the carriage house, and it's nothing that we are not 100% for. Since Tracy and Mikesh have moved in and done the renovations, it's been nothing but 100% positive to the neighborhood. They have increased everyone's values around just from the landscaping alone. The carriage house will, like has been said, will hide the apartment buildings and the wall, which is overgrown, and it'll be a perfect view for the residents, I think, just to the west, going up the street, up Mount Hope. And in fact, besides the apartment buildings to the north of their house and the condos to the south, which are just giant, which are big brick buildings, this would fit in line with the rest of the neighborhood and of historic and diverse buildings. So we 100% for this approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next on my list is Meredith Barnett.
Hi, I live in the same house as Jake Barnett, right next door to Tracy and Mikesh. He said a lot of the same things that I would say, but I just want to note how meticulous Tracy and Mikesh have been with their attention to historic detail in the renovation of the main house. And all of the plans are so well thought out for this carriage house, to not only match the house, but to work with the existing environment around it. Everything that they have done has not only improved their property in the neighborhood, but has encouraged us to be able to, fix up our yard. Before they moved in, or before they started doing renovations, our yard was overgrown with weeds because it was being kind of infiltrated by all of the overgrownness on their property. But since then, we've cleaned up our backyard. We've added siding to our garage, which, by the way, I received a packet in the mail from the Incline Place Condominium Association, citing our garage as a neighborhood example of what their garage should look like. Our garage was covered in chipping paint and like broken pieces of wood and plywood. That picture is no longer accurate. It's the 730 Mount Hope Avenue picture in the packet that they submitted. Our garage now has, I believe, vinyl siding, and has just improved the look of our neighborhood. And I believe that that is going to persist in spreading throughout the neighborhood, the drive to make renovations and feel like you're going to be able to make a difference. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill Burwinkle?
Yes, my name is Bill Burwinkle. I represent Incline Place Condominium Association. And like to compliment Graham and the Roms on the great improvement from the original design of a metal pole barn with vertical siding. Appreciate the added landscape. I would like to have a better understanding of the landscape running south along the retaining wall because there is very little description except for landscaping. So as you can see from Exhibit B of the letter that was submitted on August 11th, when we walk out our front door, we'll have a direct view of this carriage house. We'd like to request that the plantings of trees of evergreen or other coniferous species with a minimum height of 6 foot from the ground be installed along the south side. Originally, we were concerned about the west side, but everybody seems to be happy with that. So we just like to walk out our front door and not see a carriage barn. Regarding the other two concerns, the size, still believe it's oversized, and you've already addressed the water runoff. Thank you very much.
I will proceed with the rest of the public comment. If the architect or owner would like to answer that question or rebut any of that, I will give you an opportunity to do so. Ms. Johnson? Oh, looks like she's stepped away from the camera for a moment. We'll come back. Kate Stark?
Hello. Hi, my name's Kate Stark. I live at 732 Mount Hope Avenue. So I'm one of the properties that is directly to the west of the proposed site, which is actually directly behind us. So we're on our back porch. Obviously, we would be very affected by this proposed structure. But as Keith said, I also feel like it would be a massive improvement upon the dilapidated retaining wall that we're currently looking at. I think the quality of everything that Tracy and Mikesh has done goes to show that I can put my trust in them with their plans moving forward. And I just echo all the other sentiments in support of the proposed structure. Thank you for your time.
Joe Carr?
Yes, I live at 736 Mount Hope at the corner of Bushnell and Mount Hope. I'm in support of the project. The Rams have done an excellent job with their landscaping. Someone made the comment that people are stopping on Mount Hope to admire the property, and that is true. I think the placement of the structure in question is the absolute perfect place, not only from the Mount Hope view, but from the Bushnell side as well. It's a great improvement to that section of property, which has been nothing but overgrown weeds for as long as I've been here, which is 20 some odd years. And to have that piece of property taken care of is a positive aspect for not only Bushnell and Mount Hope, but for the neighbors that live around on those streets. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Kim Carr, would you like to add anything additional?
Yes, I would. Thank you. Hi, I'm Kim Carr. I live with him. And everything that everyone else has said times 100, other than the fact that I'd be a little concerned about some trees on the other retaining wall, just because I deal with hills myself in planning. The less you plan around a retaining wall, the better the structure, in my humble opinion, without being an engineer. It also, from our point of view, would be blocking some of the beauteousness that it now exists at their estate. So that's about all I have to add, and thank you for hearing me.
Thank you. Valda Moore? Oh, hang on, you just muted yourself. You were unmuted and now you're muted. There you
don't-
go. Yeah. Nope, now you're muted again. Try now. Speak. Nope, nope. Nope, you're still muted. You're gonna have to hit the button and then don't hit it again. Okay, now speak, please. Can you add what? Nope, you're muted again.
I don't know how to, there we go.
You're good, you're good.
I'm so sorry. I just am not familiar with this whole setup, so I'm really confused. But anyway, my name is Valda Moore. I'm a founding member and coordinator of the Price Hill Historical Society Museum at 3640 Warsaw Avenue in Price Hill. For 33 years, we've continued as a nonprofit, 100% volunteer organization with over 700 members. Our society has a history with this property at 716 Mount Hope Avenue. And our board of directors have agreed to support the variance for building the accessory structure at the proposed location and agree with the material, size, height, and design. There was a precedent already set with a two-story carriage house, which existed in the side yard of the property's backyard, since the house itself faces the city. I remember seeing this structure and how unattractive it was. And Mary Croft mentioned it too. We actually have a letter in our archives written by a staff member of the city's Historic Conservation Office describing their first visit to the property in 1994. That letter stated that the carriage house had gray asphalt shingles with red barn siding underneath and old stone foundation. So that was what was there that you could have probably really had a fight about. In 1993, I just want to give you a quick history of this property. Mimi Knight Faulkner, owner of the property then, came to our society to get help to save her historic home for posterity. She had been approached by the developer one after the other, wanting her prime property, and she knew that that would mean that it would be demolished. Her family had owned that home for 80 years, and it was bought from Robert M. Moore, no relative of mine, but too bad, who was a Civil War colonel and mayor of the city. We worked with the city, resulting in the house being approved to be on the City Registry of Historic Sites in 1994, and Mamie's dream came true then. Unfortunately, she died in 1999, and from that day forward, that property sat mostly empty and neglected until our current property owners bought it. They created an aesthetically pleasing concept of renovating and joining the old and the new structure. They even had a huge and expensive problem with the southwest corner of the historic house, needing super steel reinforcement to support and save the structure. So Mamie's dream came true for a second time in saving this historic home, maybe for another 150 years. Back to the Rams in building this accessory building. The maintenance of their large grounds dictate that they need this building. The plan is for the structure to be tucked in their lot that backs into Bushnell Street. If visible at all, the front facade of that structure will be 29 to 30 feet across the front. There is no doubt in my mind that it will be cohesive in color, trim, design, and complement their home. Driving by that property on Mount Hope Avenue, you cannot even see the pond and the water feature in the subject's side yard. The proposed structure will be located slightly to the side of that pond and back, meaning that it is even doubtful that you will even see it from Mount Hope Avenue. We agree that this subject structure will be an asset to the property and that this amazing development is a showplace in the Incline District. Thank you kindly for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Did Beth Johnson want to speak? That was the last person I had signed up and I don't see her. So I will move on to give the applicants an opportunity to respond to any questions or comments that were brought up during public comment. And I will also at the same time open up to the board for questions or comments.
If I may briefly share my screen, and then I think Graham might have one thing to add. I pulled up Exhibit B from the condo association where it would be visible from their driveway, and the current conditions showing that the Rams have already gone ahead and added some significant trees and plantings to help conceal the view that they are concerned about. And then Graham, if you had anything else to add.
Yeah, and then just add that we're 180 feet away. If you can see that, we're 180 feet away from the property to the south. There's substantial grade change and kind of tucked behind the corner of the concrete retaining wall. So we're well away from the adjacent property to the south.
Lindsay, if you go down one slide, one page, whoever had it pulled up, Graham or Lindsay. Of the overview from the top down. Right there. But the entrance for Incline Place is here, so it's actually another 30 feet from the property line. So it's from there, it's you're probably sitting 180 plus another 30 feet. So you're about 200 plus. Something else, it's also, the entrance is about 30 to 40 feet more east of the entrance of Incline Place. So it's not directly in front of the entry.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from board members at this time?
Excuse me, that Exhibit B was from the prior letter I submitted from Incline Place, not the August 11th letter.
Okay, Mr. Burwinkle, we've heard your testimony, or we're gonna move on and receive some questions from the board. Thank you. If there are no questions from the board, I will entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the certificate of appropriateness and zoning relief as laid out by staff.
Second.
I will now call the roll. Mr. Sunderman,
Aye.
Ms. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Zelasco,
Aye.
Mr. Young,
Aye.
Mr. Voss,
You know what you say to neighbors like this? Thank you.
You.
I vote aye.
the chair also votes aye. Your item passes. Good luck. I think we do have some staff level approvals to consider next.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the staff level approvals from July 2023.
Second.
I will call the roll. Mr. Sunderman,
Aye.
Ms. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Zelasco,
Aye.
Mr. Young,
Aye.
Mr. Voss,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. I think that means the only remaining thing to do is a motion on adjournment.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.